Hello everyone, dear Audi fans and motorsport enthusiasts. My name is Misha and I'm very excited to welcome you here at a very exclusive Audi live show. We are live, or better said, on air, like this car used to be in the air sideways, where you join us here at Audi Tradition together with Timo Witt. And again, this is a live show, so make sure to ask the questions that you would like to know about this car, or things that you would like to see about this car or one of the upcoming cars. We are here at Audi Tradition inside, but I want to make sure that you know that we have been tested, we have been vaccinated, but we will still keep distance, although we will not keep any distance to those cars. So first of all, Timo, in case some of our dear followers and friends have missed the first episode, maybe you can introduce yourself briefly.
Yes, again, my name is Timo Witt. I'm head of the historical car collection here at Audi Tradition, and we are responsible for these items.
Yes, so our first guest, or the hero of today, Audi Quattro S1 E2, so the second and the final evolution of the iconic car of the 80s of the Group B rallies. Tell us more about it. Why is this the car that people think of when they think of the Group B rally?
This is not so easy to explain, I would say, because this car and also the S1 wasn't that much of a winning car. It didn't get much trophies, but it was one of the most iconic cars because of the vision of the cars. If you see the wings, the spoiler, including the iconic 5-cylinder noise, and the flame, and this anti-lag system, and the flames out of the exhaust manifold, I think this keeps the car very, very special and was very outstanding also compared to the other cars which were in competition at that point in time.
Well, we're already getting the first questions, of course, since we're standing at the front. If we can open up the bonnet, I think we can do it, right?
Yes, we can do it.
Does it require any special procedure?
Kind of, not yet anymore, but kind of, to be honest, a kind of expectation it was to get the engine bonnet off. So we're a little bit prepared as well, just to make it as easy as possible.
As you mentioned, the 5-cylinder engine.
Yes.
What's the displacement?
It's 1.1 and something liters, almost 2.2 liters.
2.2, yes. Yeah. And turbocharged, of course. And I like that Audi is still keeping the tradition in current RS models. The RS3, RSQ3 is still a 5-cylinder turbocharged engine,
yes,
like back in the days. What was the power output of these engines?
It depended on evolution steps, but at the end it was 480 horsepower on this one.
Okay, okay. And you mentioned something about the anti-lag system. This is something to reduce the lag of the turbo, that you can instantly go on the throttle again. And how was this achieved back in the days?
You see that we have quite a big turbocharger, and turbo response to get the airflow going into the engine is a mandatory thing, a very important thing for the driver to have immediate throttle response. But with a big turbocharger, it's not so easy, as we probably all know.
Oh, yeah.
So an anti-lag system helps to get the turbocharger spinning while the driver is off throttle and the throttle plate is closed. So unfortunately, on our cars, we don't have the system. We do not have the system installed, but it was installed in this position here, where we would have a second wastegate next to the original wastegate here, and we have a fresh air intake right here to get the boost and off throttle back into the intake.
Now, you mentioned the wastegate. I mean, I could say that this looks like a wastegate, but in comparison to the modern wastegates, this is a massive unit. It's almost like an air compressor, and this is why the iconic noise comes from when it goes off the throttle.
Really, that's right. We have like two positions for the iconic noise. One is the high ratio of turbocharged power. Once the throttle blade is closing, immediately you hear this like this sound of blisters or whatever. And the other thing is, during shifting, you hear this nice sound and on power shifting or in shifting, which is done by this massive wastegate, because we have like big chambers, big valves. This all comes into play if you hear that noise.
We're getting a very interesting question. It's actually, I think, aimed at me. If you could choose, which car would you grab for the Nürburgring? Well, I think there's actually Rally Köln-Ahrweiler, where they drive the Nürburgring Nordschleife in the reverse direction. I think it would be a perfect car. Would you be my co-driver?
Yes, I would.
Okay, well, speaking of co-drivers and drivers, let's take a look inside.
Yeah, that's it.
Close the bonnet. Yeah. Oh, and another question, what about the number plates? Are they real?
They are real.
Yes, because the cars need to drive over public roads.
That's right. During a rally event, you have special stages and road and distance sections. And on these road sections, the car has to be license plated and also like technical scrutineered and everything.
So for the Germans, alles ist eingetragen.
Alles ist eingetragen. Everything is fixed. Yes, that's right.
Awesome. So let's have a look inside. Let's see. So it's a very small switch. Ooh, it's a very light door. So even back in the days, weight savings was very important. You can see that it's very narrow, empty, and I believe it's made from fiberglass.
Yes.
And speaking of materials, we have the plexiglass or Lexan windows, and then through the stickers, you can, I'm not sure if you can see it on camera, but with my eye, I can see that I think there's some sort of, not carbon fiber, but Kevlar fiber weave through it. So which materials were used for this car to achieve the, what was the weight?
980 something kilos, below 1,000 kilos. So it was a very early stage of carbon fiber, of course, of laminated material. As we saw it with the open bonnet, you see some components from the air ducts, which were made of carbon fiber as well. And so are some of the components outside for the aero and for the bodywork.
I heard that the cage was also made of something special.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really special. It's made from aluminium, which is not very common today because on the regulation, it's not longer allowed. But back in the days, the cars were equipped with the aluminium roll cage, which if we compare it to our safety standards nowadays, it's maybe not so good.
That's probably why there are also the blood type groups next to the names of the driver and the co-driver. There are a couple of questions coming in from our audience. Which parts of the S1 made it into serial production? So I guess what's the resemblance of the parts with the serial production car?
I mean, racing and motorsport and rallying is always very much testing out what is technically possible. So first of all, I would say that the way was the other way around, because to run these cars on a rally world championship with this Group B car, with this S1 model, and with a short wheelbase car, you needed a homologation car. And this came from a production car. Basically, first of all, we had a production car with 200 units made, or more, 214 in summary, but you needed 200 units for this regulation to get a homologation for this car. So, and then you have to keep some positions, sizes, wheel standards from the original car into rallying. So first of all, the way was the other way around.
Yeah. So you mentioned the numbers, 240 cars had to be made?
14, yes.
Yeah, and nowadays it's 25,000.
Yes.
That's why it makes participating in motorsport quite difficult. And that's why also in the past, everything was better, more or less, you could say. It was easier, but more dangerous. Ooh, here's a very sensitive question. How many Quattros were lost or totaled, or how many were made?
This is a difficult question and very, very difficult to explain. I'm not sure if I can give a 100% answer. But like I said, 214 were made of the homologation model. So you needed 200. And almost 20 cars were taken out from this lot of cars to be modified into a car like this. So, and after that, some cars remained in our facility, like this one, for example, or the other one over there. But it's not quite 100% sure how many cars survive, because somewhere are hidden, somewhere in the collections. Sometimes cars are coming out in the daylight again and freshly revised or rebuilt. Yeah, so it's not so easy, but we know quite some cars which are still existing.
Before we proceed in looking at the interior, there was another question. Does Audi have hill climb cars? Well, actually, I'm wearing a t-shirt with one, because in '86, the Group B was dismantled, and in '87, that's when Audi participated with Pikes Peak, is that correct? Which was the last hurrah.
Yes, at the end of the day, we competed already with Audi on Pikes Peak for the hill climb years earlier as well, with some cars from the American unit, from Audi of America, but also in 1985, Michel Mouton won the Pikes Peak race. We do have that car, which is currently in our museum. And of course, the iconic car, the 1987 car from Quattro, which you have on your shirt right here. It cannot be here at the moment because it's as well displayed in our museum, but this is easy to access. Just visit the museum and you can see it. Exactly.
As mentioned, you can access the museum, but unfortunately, you cannot visit Audi Tradition. That's why this show is very exclusive for you. Now, moving on to the interior, and the first thing that I see Actually, a couple of things that I see. Of course, it's a classic Spartan interior. Lots of buttons, also the intercom system and the communication system. Speaking of communication systems, why is there an extra microphone? Because I believe even like now, the driver and the co-driver are just connected with each other permanently back in the days.
That's right. They do have an intercom system, but also you need a connection to your service crew out there if they're not on stage and next to the car. You need to radio them in and tell them about the situation of the car, what happened on the stage, and what probably do they need an additional wheel or additional wishbone to be equipped to the car. Yeah, that's right. So you needed to give some information.
Yeah. And then on the shifter and the gear lever, there's a button. Like sometimes it's a start-stop button. In some movies, it's a NOS button to go extra fast. Why is it here? What's this?
And this is a very early stage of, I would say, kind of a power shift system. Kind of. I mean, a power shift system on a regular gearbox works differently. But this button is substitution for the clutch. We do have a clutch pedal, which works like a normal clutch does. But to keep the driver focusing on the throttle pedal, on the brake pedal, you can press this white button while you shift, and then the clutch will be activated to get the gear change done. So you do not need to worry about your left foot and the clutch pedal anymore. That's
nice. That's cool. So it's kind of in between that if you can want to still have the old school feeling of shifting, but you don't want to use your left leg for clutching. Maybe they should reintroduce that into modern cars. I can see the benefit of some motorsport enthusiasts yelling for it. But no, it's a nice system. So it's basically a predecessor of a dog box where you didn't need the clutch at all.
Yeah, kind of system, and also just of a semi-automatic gearbox if you want to.
Yeah, yeah. Now looking more into the interior, I see lots of buttons and switches for lights, etc.
Yeah. So if you put an ignition on, you see the standard lights, oil pressure light, for example, if you do it like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we don't press the start button if you want.
No, yeah, because I believe the fire alarm will go off here for the CO. But I don't see any air conditioning button.
No, unfortunately not. You see this air duct here coming here on the door as well. This is the only airflow you got. On modern rally cars, you see a scoop on the roof, but not here. And you have to suffer what you get basically, and it will be warm. I can tell you, because also if you see on the co-driver side right there, we have the water hoses running through the interior.
Oh wow! So you have to really watch out with your leg placement.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you know like rough temperatures? How hot it would get like in Rally Kenya or something?
No, it's also difficult to judge, but it will for sure be higher than 50 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the old school, the race wear, it was not like really cooling or anything.
No, and also not that kind of lightweight race gear you have today. It was more heavy, more wool, whatever. So I think it was not really a convenient place to be in.
No, that's why everyone has such an admiration for these cars, and especially the drivers and co-drivers that were piloting them. Now let's move a bit more to the back, and I'm looking at the questions. How many S1s do you have actually in the collection here?
We have a short wheelbase S1 as a standard rally car. We have two S1 E2 cars like this. One is the 85 Olympus car, and the other one is the 86 Monte car, which is here. And we have the S1 E2 Pikes Peak, or S1 Pikes Peak, if you call it. Yeah.
That's more S1s than I will probably ever possess in my whole life. So I'm happy to be here to see them all.
And if you follow also our social media channel in the future, we will have some additional cars coming in. So we have 2 more cars in preparation at the moment.
Nice.
So which will also S1 and the one S1 E2, which has a modified version.
That's really nice. Now we are at the back, which is again, this wing requires no further introduction. It's massive. But there are a couple of things that I noticed. First of all, these active-passive aerodynamics, the flexible. So nowadays it will probably be banned as when we look at the current discussions in Formula One.
Yes, unfortunately, yes. Yeah.
And then I think, is it actually a literal wing? Does it benefit when the car is in the air, flying over the hills?
I mean, there are 2 reasons to get the setup of the aerodynamics right on the rally car. One is, of course, downforce, even for fast tarmac roads, or also on gravel. But on the other hand, always if you design a rally car, even a modern rally car, you keep a focus as well on the flying position, because they are airborne very often, even on gravel events, like Finland, for example. They are really flying far. So you have to get in a stable condition once the car is in the air. And you see, if you see some old videos, you watch some old videos on YouTube or wherever, you see these kind of cars coming up in front pretty much. It's not so nice to see at some point, and pretty risky as well.
Yeah, had to work on the front aerodynamics back in the days.
Out of balance, I would say.
Yeah, balance, because on the front you have, on the rear you have massive wing, but in the front you don't have any canards. You have the wide arches, but that's pretty much it that we have. In the back, while we're standing here in the back, I think we have the cooling pack here in the rear.
Yes. Also a little bit prepared like this, so we can remove the rear cover and see the package what is here. Nice.
So, and it does get enough air. I know a lot of people gonna comment like the car is driving sideways anywhere. You don't need any air from the front, but I guess the radiators help it.
Yes, we have a slight airflow coming in from the sides. You see a little bit of ducting here and there, but on the other hand, it's a big cooler, and the radiators are doing the right thing and sucking the air through just to get enough airflow for the water cooler on the right hand side, and for the oil cooler here on the left-hand side of it.
And then on the left, I guess that's a dry sump, lubrication to fill in. And I see multiple flaps on the sides. So is this for fuel, or is it for some other liquids?
We have fuel here. We have some other liquids as well. You need a windscreen
wiper.
Wiper kind of water. You need cooling water as well. So there are several openings for liquids.
Okay.
Oil is on our side here. And the other oil intake is here. This is this is fuel, and this is oil here. Oil, you just, of course, you fill in just by removing the engine cover or the rear cover. Yeah.
Well, I guess that's pretty much it as far as I can look at the car. Of course, there is so much more, but unfortunately, we're limited in time. But don't worry, we have 3 more shows where we're going to talk about 3 other cars. So in case you haven't registered yet, make sure to do so. And also keep those questions coming in. I have one more question, however. We haven't addressed one of the most important components when it comes to handling is, of course, the suspension. Nowadays, you have suspensions with 3, with 4 adjustable settings, so rebound, compression, etc. How was it back in the days? Did you already have click systems, or did you have to replace the complete shock system?
It was much more simple. I mean, later they're coming up with some click systems, but normally if you change the setup for a rally car, it mostly also depends between tarmac and gravel. So you change the whole suspension, because the whole setup is different. You have different springs, you have different dampers, we have more damper travel. Also, of course, different kind of tires. Now, what you see now is a tarmac setup with a tarmac tire. It's a semi-slick on this car. But we also have, of course, gravel tires with a gravel setup, which looks a little bit different. The car is much higher and much softer, for example, to be stable and equipped with traction on gravel.
Well, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with us and also with me. I learned something, I saw something new, and this is an amazing car. Hopefully I'll get to see it in action one day. Actually, I got a chance to drive it once, like one of the replica cars, I think. And it's very special way of driving because of the engine in the front. You really need to steer more with the throttle than with the steering wheel, actually, I would say, with this car.
Yeah, and I think the handling of that car, this is also said by the drivers back in the days, it was not so easy. I mean, they shortened the wheelbase to make it a little bit better in turns, but to have the engine far in the front, so the packaging also, whether you see it with a spare tire here in the rear to get a weight balance, but the car with that layout was not so easy to drive and not so easy to get around the turns.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us and sending all your questions. Make sure to register and join for the upcoming show in about 10 minutes time, where we're going to be talking about
the Inza GTO.
Also a very special car. I believe it's your favorite car of them all here.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm excited to share all my excitement and knowledge with you. See you in a bit.
Thank you.